It's precisely 6:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Lakshman Fonseca, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. President of the South Africa says he will dedicate to keep the close relationship with the government of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is to receive emergency medicines worth $4 million by the World Health Organization. Parliamentarian Madhura Vithanage says that it is obligatory to investigate about the groups launching anti-government activities. Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation has taken measures to provide helping hand to promote renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka. The government is planning to launch projects on manufacturing and assembling of electric vehicles in Sri Lanka. And in world news, South Korea again records the world's lowest fertility rate, with the numbers sinking to a new low. And in sports news, the Nestamall Cycling Challenge to be held on 28th August at Vihara Mahadevi Park, Colombo. Now the local news in detail. Sri Lanka will receive a donation of emergency medicines and other medical supplies worth $4 million by the World Health Organization. Director General of the WHO, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, issuing a congratulatory message to the President Ranil Wickremesinghe, has said the preliminary procurement works has already begun in this regard, and Sri Lanka office of the WHO will inform the further details in this regard shortly. Accordingly, the donation urgently needed by the health sector in Sri Lanka will be settled shortly. WHO had also assured the organization is closely monitoring the situation in Sri Lanka. The Director General of WHO has added that they will provide technical assistance to promote provincial health services in Sri Lanka. Parliamentarian Madhura Vithanage says that it is obligatory to investigate about the groups launching anti-government activities. He said that there is a tendency of saying all the anti-government rallies and the protests are peaceful and deprived of violation. He added that he vehemently opposed the happening on the 9th of May at the Goldface Green. He said all these things were occurred with a prior schedule, and he added that it was not occurred that the given day it was scheduled to take place in another day. In a media briefing held in Colombo today, he also said that it is needed to investigate into the matters and culprits engaged in such activities and take necessary legal actions against the anti-government conspiracies. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing on local news, Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation has taken measures to provide helping hand to promote renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka. Accordingly, SLBC will provide a plot of land to build a 100-megawatt renewable power plant at the Kuchaveli Trincomalee. The Memorandum of Understanding regarding the project was signed with the Vice Chairman of the 3W Power Management Limited, Indika Kumara Virakkodi, and Chairman of the SLBC, Hudson Samarasinghe, this morning. The Cabinet approval for the project has been granted on the 18th of January this year. Construction work of the project will initiate shortly, and operation of the plant will commence on the mid next year, and it will provide 100 megawatts for the national grid. The government is planning to launch projects on manufacturing and assembling of electric vehicles in the country. The government also hopes to convert three-wheelers and buses that are used for public transport into medium and short-term projects. Addressing the media, Transport Ministry and Mass Media Additional Secretary Lalit Dialvi said 1.4 million three-wheelers are registered with the Department of Motor Traffic, and 500,000 three-wheelers out of the total capacity are engaged in direct transport services. Another 300,000 are engaged in public transportation indirectly. He added all the three-wheelers use a high volume of fuel, and the government has to spend more money on importing fuel for them. Therefore, the Ministry of Transport is hoping to initiate the conversion project from three-wheelers and move the project for the conversion of private vehicles and public transportation. Meanwhile, DMT Commissioner General Nishantha Veerasinghe said that the ministry will have to face several issues with registering, regulating and establishing standards for the institutions. However, government will take measures to address the issues, he added. He also said the DMT launched a workshop with the help of the United Nations Development Programme in this regard. The pilot program of the project was to convert 300 three-wheelers from fuel to electricity operation. With that, we conclude the local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
President of the South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, says he will dedicate to keep up the close association with the government of Sri Lanka. Sending a congratulatory message to the President, Ranil Wickremesinghe, he has added that his country had kept utmost significance to keep the friendship with Sri Lanka constant since early days. In the message, he has assured that he will take all the measures to strengthen the friendship, bilateral relations and close relationship with Sri Lanka in future too. That was main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
Health experts today urged people to obtain the booster dose of the COVID-19 vaccine without delay, as the current stocks of vaccines are set to expire by October 31st. Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Samitha Ginige says that there are ample stocks of vaccines in the country right now, as the total requirement of the booster doses for people over 20 years had been procured. He said people over 20 years of age are still to obtain the booster dose, and it is vital to obtain the booster dose to prevent from the new variants spreading at present. That was Watch Light.
A Strength to Your Life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
Moving on to world news, taking a look at the headlines of the world news. South Korea again records the world's lowest fertility rate, with the number sinking to a new low. Sichuan residents flee heat waves and power cuts underground. Euro MPs accuse the UK's threatening health and marine life on the French coast by allowing raw sewage to be dumped in the North Sea. Now the world news in detail. South Korea has again recorded the world's lowest fertility rate, with the number sinking to a new low. The rate in the country first dropped lower than one child per woman in 2018. But on Wednesday, figures released by the government showed the figure had dropped to 0.81, down 3 points from the previous year, and a sixth consecutive decline. In comparison, the average rate across the world's most advanced economies is 1.6 children. However, it is said countries need at least 2 children per couple, a 2.1 rate, to keep their population at the same size without migration. Fertility rates have declined markedly in the past 6 decades, says the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Residents in China, Sichuan province, are taking creative measures to deal with a record heat wave that has seen temperatures exceed 40 Celsius. Those in Chongqing and neighboring Sichuan are heading into underground bunkers and cave restaurants in an attempt to seek shelter from the heat. Some experts say the intensity of the heat wave could make it one of the worst recorded in global history. Some train stations in the provinces dimmed their usual bright lights to save electricity, with photos and videos on social media show eerie scenes of people sitting in darkened train carriages in Chongqing and walking down darkened streets. The UK is threatening health and marine life on French coast by allowing raw sewage to be dumped in the Channel and North Sea, say 3 Euro MPs. Pollution warnings have been issued for almost 50 beaches in England and Wales after heavy rain caused sewage overflow to be diverted into rivers and the sea. The French MPs accuse the UK of neglecting environmental commitments and risking marine life and fishing. British water companies have said they are investigating and investing in solving the problem. Since its departure from the European Union, the United Kingdom had neglected its environmental commitments, the MEP said in a letter calling for legal or political action from the European Commission. However, an UK government spokesperson said the allegations were simply not true. With that, we conclude the world news. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the world news once again. South Korea again records the world's lowest fertility rate, with the number sinking to a new low. Sichuan residents flee heat waves and power cuts underground. Euro MPs accuse the UK is threatening health and marine life on the French coast by allowing raw sewage to be dumped in the North Sea. With that, we conclude the world news. With that, we move on to development news. Minister of Agriculture, Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservation Mahinda Amaravira says that a program has been implemented to locally produce the rice needed by the country and make the country self-sufficient. These facts were disclosed in the special news conference held at the Government Information Department auditorium to inform the public about the fertilizer distribution program and popularization of maize cultivation in the Yala and Maha seasons. The minister stated that domestic paddy production is sufficient to produce the rice needed for domestic consumption, and if all the relevant parties cooperate, this goal to be self-sufficient can be reached quickly. That was Development News.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank, we present your future.
The Nesta Mall Cycling Challenge will be held on 28th August at Vihara Mahadevi Park, Colombo from 8 a.m. onwards. Cycling Challenge is organised by the Cycling Federation of Sri Lanka under the guidance of the Ministry of Youth and Sports for the second consecutive year. Nestlé Nesta Mall joins hands as the sponsor for this year as well. The event is expected to draw participation from over 500 aspiring cyclists and offer a platform to fast-track their professional careers. It will be comprised with 7 races. The races include Standard Open, Junior Men Racing, Elite Women Racing, Under 23 Men Racing, Elite Men Racing, Over 40 Men Racing and Over 50 Men Racing. That was Sports News.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP You Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Ceylon Electricity Board, CEB, has opened proposals from interested parties for a project to be developed a 100 megawatt AC solar PV ground mount prowler plant in Siambalandua. The CEB also plans to construct a 132 kilowatt transmission facility on turnkey basis from Siambalandua to Munaragala grid substation. The successful bidders would be requested to finance, design, construct, supply, commission and maintain this facility on a build-own operating model. CEB will also enter into a power purchase agreement for a period of 20 years with the successful bidders. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP You Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
More than 30,000 foreigners have arrived in the island during the first 3 weeks of this month. Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority said that 31,150 tourists have arrived in the country from the 1st of this month to the 23rd. That was Economic News.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
Finally, we take a look at the weather report. The Met Department says that several spells of showers will occur in western, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura districts. Showers or thunder showers will occur at several places elsewhere during the evening or night. Fairly heavy rainfalls, about 75 millimeters, can be expected at some places in northern, north central and eastern provinces. That was the weather report, and prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. President of the South Africa says he will dedicate to keep the close relationship with the government of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is to receive emergency medicines worth $4 million by the World Health Organization. Parliamentarian Madhura Vithanage says that it is obligatory to investigate about the groups launching anti-government activities. Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation has taken measures to provide helping hand to promote renewable energy projects in Sri Lanka. The government is planning to launch projects on manufacturing and assembling of electric vehicles in Sri Lanka. With that, we conclude the news.